And Kevin, you've been reporting on the Pentagon for a long time, as has Courtney. Have you ever been privy to information like Goldberg describes?
Oh, I wish. Boy, do I wish. I'm sure Courtney does too. Not at that level. Absolutely not. Look, I had the same reaction, I think, as everyone did when I was asked, can I come on and talk about the Goldberg article? And I went, whoa, no, what Goldberg article? I can't believe what I'm reading. And for so many reasons. Number one, I think if you scroll to the bottom of that article, that's where it gets really interesting when it describes that, look, there are laws in place about what government officials can and can't do, how they're supposed to talk to each other. Forget about classified war plans. You're not supposed to use personal devices. You're not supposed to use personal accounts. Remember, but her emails. But for this, you are absolutely not supposed to use personal emails, even with Signal. Signal is an encryption text that everyone's familiar with in our line of work. But Courtney's right. There's no scenario on Earth where something as sensitive as what we're seeing should be described on Signal, because it's not foolproof. That's what the SCIF is for. That's what the secure compartmentalized rooms are for. And Ned knows that, just as well as anyone he can talk to as well. So yes, it's very common to talk via Signal. That's just the latest app, to sources, especially sensitive sources, intelligence sources. But for U.S. officials, there are actual laws on the books, and these, and for also Congress was warned that these Trump officials were quite inexperienced, and that something like this could happen. I mean, this is so base. This is so unbelievable. This isn't like, Tulsi Gabbard doesn't know better, and Hegseth doesn't know better. It's dumbfounding.
Well, Ned, expand on that. Why is it particularly egregious or particularly unsafe to have these sorts of conversations on Signal? I mean, lots of people use it. It is one of the more, I guess, secretive and maybe better encrypted apps out there. But to have this level of conversation on that app, why would that be? Why is that not normally the process?
Yeah, Katie, we are all struggling with how to describe the enormity of this story. I've thought to myself a number of times over the past couple months, there are no words to describe something. And I think this really understates what we're dealing with now and the implications of it. Look, I was in every principals committee meeting of the Biden administration in my last job in government. And I've been talking with former colleagues who are also around the table, and their heads are exploding. And their heads are exploding for a very simple reason. Outside of the top secret and the secret communication systems that are administered by the U.S. government, there is no such thing as secure communications. I think you said it well. There are more secure communications, and Signal may be more secure than speaking over an open phone line, for example. But there are sophisticated intelligence services and even private sector entities around the world who have demonstrated their capacity to crack encrypted communications, and there are no higher profile targets than the people who were on this chain: the Vice President of the United States, the CIA Director, the Director of National Intelligence, and down the line. Katie, I think we're thinking about this in terms of the implications for the Houthis, but if you read what Jeffrey Goldberg said about something that the CIA Director, John Ratcliffe, said on this chain, I think it suggests there was a discussion of sources and methods that go well beyond this particular case of the Houthis. And you can imagine that sources and methods of the U.S. intelligence community, of the CIA in particular, are going to be of extraordinary interest to some of our adversaries. Katie, I think the irony in all of this is that one person seems to have really practiced good operational security in all of this, and it's no one in government. It was Jeffrey Goldberg. It was the reporter who didn't report on the most classified details.
We hope so, because Jeffrey Goldberg now has on his, I'm sure not government-protected phone, lots of operational details, including potentially sources and methods. He talks about how one of the members who was designated a point of contact, this is the one for the CIA, he did not name because this person is currently operational, meaning that their identity shouldn't be out there. But now Jeffrey Goldberg has it in his possession. And Jeffrey Goldberg's phone presumably is not as secure as the phones of other folks. So, I mean, I feel like there's still a question there about the security of this information. I mean, I certainly trust Jeffrey Goldberg is taking all the precautions that he knows to take, but still, I mean, this information is out there.
Oh, Katie, I don't want to suggest that all is safe because Jeffrey Goldberg redacted some classified details. My point is that Jeff really was more sensitive to the extraordinary nature of this conversation than those participants seem to be. It is absolutely the case that this was not sloppy. I've heard some people refer to this as sloppy before. This was not sloppy. Sloppiness would have been adding the wrong person on the top secret email chain on the top secret U.S. government system. That would have been sloppy. What we're seeing here is just pure carelessness. It is recklessness. It is laziness, not wanting to perhaps go to their skiff, go to their offices to have this conversation. And it is downright dangerous. Again, in the context of this operation against the Houthis themselves. But the kind of information that was discussed here would be a treasure trove for a foreign intelligence service or a foreign entity who would want to do us harm. And Jeffrey Goldberg is the only one who seems to be going out of his way and being intentional about doing what he can to protect what he received due to no fault of his own, Katie.
Yeah, and, we were just putting up some of the actual screen grabs that Goldberg has of the conversation. I mean, these are the actual screen grabs of the conversation. You can see the Secretary of Defense and some of the other ones. I mean, this is the longer messages, but when they're talking about actually going forward, look right here, emojis. I mean, they're talking in emojis about war plans, which I think might be startling. And then there's a question, Eli, of how Jeffrey Goldberg got on this chain. He's known as JG in this. If you just go to your iPhone, keypad, if you type in JG, you notice that it's kind of close to typing in JD. So maybe he was trying to type in JD Vance, maybe. I wonder, though, in terms of consequences, would you expect to see anything come of this from the Trump administration? I mean, Mike Waltz created this. All these folks were on it. They were giving out operational, top secret information to a journalist. Donald Trump, I assume, doesn't want that to happen. Are there going to be consequences?
I don't want to speculate too much about that, but I think to the extent that the president has felt embarrassed by situations created by staffers, there can and sometimes are consequences privately. He may come out publicly and criticize the magazine. He may say that he didn't hear about it, although it's worth pointing out that in the Atlantic story, the spokesperson for the National Security Council acknowledges that appears to be a real threat. There's no pushing back saying that signal group is fake, that it's not what Jeff Goldberg thought it looked to be. So I think that's important to get out there. The president may comment on it more. I think, in terms of consequences, one would hope that there would be new policies put in place to protect classified information. But I think perhaps just as likely, if not more likely, are internal consequences in terms of how the president feels about how certain staffers were conducting themselves on that call. I think it's important to point out, if you read the whole story, and I hope everyone watching reads the entire piece, J.D. Vance in the group chat that Goldberg is watching actually expresses his opposition to striking the Houthis, says it's inconsistent with the president's plan, says there's no real reason to do it. It's just messaging. A striking statement that is now in the public domain from the vice president in terms of conducting foreign policy and his latitude to influence foreign policy and his opinions about something that the administration did, seemingly despite his opposition. So that's all out there. Will President Trump be annoyed by that? Will he be annoyed at Waltz for potentially creating this chat, creating this black eye story? I can tell you there are a lot of people at the Pentagon who have spoken to colleagues of mine who cover the building who say, look, this is really frustrating, so reckless with the information. There are also people inside the West Wing who will privately acknowledged today, this isn't good. This doesn't make any of us look good. This is a mess of a story. There's no Caroline Leavitt briefing today, but they're going to get a lot of questions about this over the next several days, and we'll see how they respond.